Propulsion Lab at Swiss Container Native Day, and my next guest is Pini Reznik. Pini, welcome.
Well,
Thank,
thank you for inviting me.
thank you for being here. And Pini, this is something that looks like one of the themes of the conference, sustainability. Right? We just spoke with Sohan that is going to have his talk about sustainability later this afternoon. This is something that you spoke about as well.
Yes, so I was talking about sustainability and generally how to achieve sustainability on large-scale cloud-native systems. I'm really happy to see that the conference is actually introducing this topic as one of the key themes.
I think it has to do with like a latest theme about the rise of the costs in the cloud, right? And we see this theme coming up more and more on viral topics on X and elsewhere about how suddenly the cloud that was supposed to reduce the cost and being elastic and being on demand, comparing to on-prem solutions, is now actually costing more and more and make the entire endeavor kind of pointless or maybe not as efficient as we expected it to be. And we see a lot of movement towards what it's called repatriation,
Yes.
which is a very cool term of services from the cloud back on-prem.
I, I think, so first just a few numbers. IT is already contributing 4% or so of the total carbon emissions around the world, of everything, yeah? So, which is obviously quite significant, and if we do nothing, we will get to about 14% in 20 years or so. So obviously we need to respond to that. But even more difficult to say is that actually 80 to 90% of our compute capacity is actually not utilized at all. Mostly because larger enterprises, they provision all this capacity in data centers. And it actually doesn't matter if it's public cloud or private cloud. All these servers just sitting there, and maybe only 10 or 20% of them actually used. And yet we are deploying more and more data centers, and we are scaling our AI setups, and we are training massive models, while we have 90% of the capacity just sitting there and effectively on idle.
But cloud was supposed to be the answer, right? I remember 20 years ago when the AWS just got started, elasticity was exactly what was supposed to solve this problem.
Yes.
And I remember myself giving one of my first talks ever publicly back in early 2000s about exactly this topic, how when you have servers sitting on-prem and not doing anything and just spinning, if you take those loads and make them on-demand elastic in the cloud, you will actually be much more sustainable. So what happened?
So elasticity is actually exactly what could help to reduce this waste. The thing is that elasticity going up is easy, but going down is difficult. What you see in a lot of enterprises is that definitely they use elasticity to grab more resources. When they see any sort of problem, they double the size of the VM, they increase the size of the clusters, they do a lot of redundancy. But scaling down is a bit more difficult because your architecture needs to support that. Right? So when you shut down a server, or shut down a VM, or you reduce the size of the cluster, you need to make sure that the loads are resettling in other places. And that actually is a bit more difficult task. And eventually the enterprises, what they care about is ability to go forward and create new value. And although they all talk about cost and sustainability and efficiency, actually it all is less important compared to innovation.
And this is amazing because in today's economical climate as well, right? With all the companies try to reduce cost, I would say this is something worth investing in, maybe instead of just firing random people.
There's this something called Jevons paradox, which says roughly when you make something easier, you don't reduce the use of it, but you increase the use of it. And that's exactly what we're experiencing. We made cloud so easy that it is no-brainer to add more stuff, and it's cheap, right? So yes, you can reduce cost, but if you say have 40 people or 100, let's say 100 people team, and you have 100,000 euro a month cloud bill, where is it easier to save cost? See, proportionally to the salaries bill, the cloud is marginal. And spending 5 people for 3 months project to save 20,000 a month is actually not something that enterprise is willing to do.
That makes sense, but where does it leave us? What we should do?
So there is a lot of investment in infrastructure. So data centers or cloud vendors, they become much more efficient. They introduce new technologies like liquid cooling. They introduce green energy. Almost every data center would have solar or wind energy. But we cannot leave it to them entirely. What we need to do is really care about reducing the waste. And reducing the waste is not just about saving cost. I think that's what people don't understand. It's not just about saving cost. When you reduce the waste, you create environments that are, or you create a system that is more efficient, more mature, better quality. When you have better quality, you can actually deliver more value. So what we really need is to invest in this kind of SRE style, dynamic scaling, actually what cloud native is supposed to be. Just use what you need. I think that's the main idea.
Exactly, right. And you say the approach to kind of persuade the industry to do it is not through cost saving.
In my experience doing 25 years of IT and 10 years consulting to enterprise, that's not what is important to enterprises, not cost saving. Of course, it is important, but it's not the first priority. And the same with sustainability. When we started Rethink, a sustainability consultancy, we heard Gartner and everyone else saying that sustainability is one of top 3 priorities in IT. But when you get down to that, it doesn't translate to investment of budgets.
Maybe because it's just like a figure of speech or virtue signaling. Everybody say that how important it is, but when it comes to investing in
Yes.
it, it's much harder.
It's like puppies and kittens, right?
Exactly.
Everyone loves them, but it doesn't mean you want one, right? So that's sort of our experience right now. Everyone wants to talk about sustainability, but there is still not enough investment, not from the governments, not from the enterprises, and it's not the first priority in terms of budget allocation and time allocation. And it means that what we want to do, we as a company, we decided that we're going to focus more on actually improving existing systems to help those enterprises to deliver value faster, also save cost. But profit is revenue minus cost, right?
Of course.
So it's much better to increase revenue than reduce
Always,
cost.
always. And okay, so let me ask you a practical question. I understand the theory that says, hey, when you create better products, sustainability comes with it. But what kind of improvements
Yeah.
should the companies implement in order to benefit to the bottom line, but also to the sustainability efforts?
I think the first thing, by far the most important thing, is awareness. I think this is a big problem. Very few companies today understand how much emissions actually they generate and how they use their hardware. There are few tools like Kepler or Scaphandre that are available. We built an open source tool called Ether that actually helps to measure carbon emissions from IT infrastructure. I think showing these numbers in parallel to other SRE or DORA or other metrics that can give the decision makers the tools to decide if they want to invest it or not. Because in most enterprises, they don't even know how many emissions they are generating. And after that, it's about increasing quality and investing in optimization. And there are very few, very simple techniques you can do. Like kill the zombies, reduce unneeded test environments, shut down unused servers, reduce the size of VMs. Plenty of those.
This is all just common sense, right? You
All
should
common
do
sense.
it for multiple reasons.
Absolutely. It's so the sustainability is just the side effect of a good functional system.
Exactly.
And if you reduce your waste by 90% and you rely on the cloud vendors to use green energy and efficient compute, and altogether we can reduce the emissions by 90% with existing technologies.
It makes sense. This is what's so great about this all being software, that you
Yes.
can have those kind of gains that you cannot get easily with other industries.
I think the problem with software is that, I mean, eventually software runs on hardware, right?
Of course, but you can
Uh,
change the software to better utilize hardware.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But unfortunately, it works the other way around too.
Of course.
You can change the software to waste a lot of hardware, and that's the direction today. And if you think about larger scale enterprises like Google, Meta, the companies that were born into cloud native, they care about that a lot. Their processes are very efficient. Google introduced this, sorry, right? If you think about Gmail, Gmail is not changing that often. It's very efficient. It's used by billion people. There's 8 products that Google owns that used by more than billion people.
Wow.
And you cannot maintain this level of
Scale.
compute scale because if you don't do it efficiently, you would have 5 million people maintaining this product.
Of course.
That's not what you want, obviously, right?
Yep.
Especially if you consider Gmail as a free tool in many cases.
So in the end of the day, this goes, the efficiency is efficiency is efficiency. It's true
Yes.
for sustainability, it's true for cost of maintenance, it's true for every other aspect of software delivery and
Yeah.
operations.
I think at the end, that's what we can do. Yeah, of course, the technologies are changing. The energy mix is shifting from carbon intense oil and gas towards greener solar and wind. All that is amazing. We have very little control over that. But we do have a control of not over provisioning our Kubernetes clusters.
Exactly, exactly. Pini, that was great, very insightful and very interesting. Thank you very much for coming to Build Propulsion Lab at Swiss Cloud Native Day. And you'll stay tuned for more episodes today, right after this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.